Kaiji is the kind of show people either love or hate, and the only way to tell is to watch an episode or two. It's deliberately ugly and grim, its atmosphere is dark and stressful, it's also pretty absurd and hard to take seriously at times. If you can push past all that, there's a masterpiece of a show hidden here. How an audience member interprets the events in Kaiji says a lot about their own perspective on the world, like a Rorschach test. You could view the main character as a victim, a flawed hero, an idiot, or maybe even all at once. Instead of describing all the ways you could hypothetically interpret this story, I'll just say how I see Kaiji, as both a show and as a character. You can decide for yourself if you agree with me. I'll only be spoiling events from the first 3 episodes. The first thing we're shown is Kaiji losing a game of cards. This isn't to show us that Kaiji has lost a game of cards, it's to show us that Kaiji is a loser. In time we'll learn that Kaiji is a loser because he has a lot of character flaws that compound on each other. But for now, showing him losing a game of cards is the quick and easy way to get the point across, without slowing the pacing. Kaiji cries because a little part of him knows how pathetic he is, and then he commits petty acts of vandalism to feel like a big man. Kaiji is a creature of habit, just like the rest of us. He makes the same mistakes over and over again, every day. He doesn't change because it's easier to stay the same, even if he's miserable. This isn't a story about a good man who gets unwillingly and suddenly dragged into a bad situation. It's a story about a man who woke up every day and decided to take the path of least resistance. The events of the story are just the long overdue consequences of that consistent behavior. Anyway, a guy shows up and tricks Kaiji into more self-destructive behavior, because strangers have no motivation to fix your personality defects when they could instead exploit them. I'm not a very spiritual person, but at this point we gotta talk about the Hindu concept of the 3 gunas, which describe different aspects of personality, which we all possess to greater or lesser extents. There's the tamas, or darkness, which is associated with entropy, lethargy, and stagnation. Whenever you know you could be doing better but you can't be bothered, that's tamas. Rajas is associated with energy, competitiveness, and material greed. Finally, there's sattva, which represents a divine or elevated consciousness that overcomes the haze of material desires. Kaiji isn't a story about sattva, it's a story about how our world is a vicious machine, ran by Rajas people, within which the tamas slaves are wrung dry and exploited for all their worth. Kaiji is tamas. The people who agreed to this death game are tamas. Your shitty father who lies in a mound of beer cans watching football all day is tamas. The desire to be part of a collective group where difficult thinking is done for you? That's tamas too. The part of your mind which made you watch an obscure video essay about an anime is probably also tamas. It's a desire to not tackle anything complicated or engage your brain. It's instant gratification and indulgence. Kaiji goes into this event with his brain switched off, and ends up losing almost everything to a Rajas. He reflects on how his entire life, he's just followed what other people told him to do, relying on collective wisdom over his own will and judgment. He resolves to change his ways, starting now. What keeps the show gripping is that Kaiji makes little breakthroughs like this from time to time, but he rarely grasps the full context of his suffering. If you pay attention to the villains of this show, you piece together the secret to their wealth and power. The Rajas don't gamble, they rig the game in their favor. The Rajas don't start fighting when they're backed into a corner, they fight every single day. The Rajas don't hope other people will save them, because they know the only person who truly has their best interests at heart is themselves. The Rajas are utterly ruthless, selfish, and cunning. But that's not the true secret to their success. The secret is that they're driven and willing to sacrifice anything. There are a pair of movies that are a great complement to Kaiji, which are The Founder and Whiplash. Kaiji, The Founder, and Whiplash are all about ambition, and the sacrifices needed to become great. All 3 are like a Rorschach test to see how you feel about the protagonist. Are they a victim, a willing participant, a fool, a monster, a genius? These shows don't tell you how to feel. I don't have much more to say without spoiling anything. Watch Kaiji. If you don't like it, then at least watch The Founder and Whiplash. If you don't like any of those 3 things, then unsubscribe from my YouTube channel if you haven't already.